Oliver, my cousin, was always more than just family to me. He was my closest friend. We're only a year apart, so we spent a lot of time together growing up. But after school, we sort of drifted apart as we went off to pursue our studies. In my final year of college, I met Alice. Things between us escalated quickly, and by the time we graduated, we were already living together. Around the same time, Oliver had settled into a job, a good one, at that, well-paying too. He used to say it was just luck that landed him the gig, but I couldn't help but feel like there was some of Dad's influence behind it. Still, my brother, and I kept in touch every now and then. Wow, this drink has amazing flavor. I can only dream of having something like this, I once commented, admiring the glass in my hand. I brought a few bottles back from my vacation, Oliver said with a grin. When he told me how much it cost, I nearly choked. To put it simply, my cousin was doing really well for himself. He'd bought this incredible apartment, huge in a nice part of town, top-notch layout, recently renovated. It felt like something straight out of a movie. He and Alice hit it off right away. I noticed how Oliver would look at her with these little compliments, and I couldn't help but watch them. Every family gathering during the holidays, he would always end up sitting next to Alice. He'd offer her salad, pull out her chair, do all those little things to show attention. Now, it's pretty normal for a guy to hold the door open for a girl or hand her a coat, right? But when it's always the same girl, you start noticing things. Looking back, I should have picked up on it sooner. But Oliver had always been like a brother to me, so what could possibly go wrong? It wasn't until later that I realized the truth. Oliver wasn't just being friendly, he was jealous. He wanted something serious with Alice too, and honestly, she was just as stunning as any girl could be. I started noticing more and more that Oliver and Alice were talking on the phone a lot. Each time, the reason seemed harmless enough. Sometimes it was to wish her a happy new year, other times a professional holiday, or just to ask for her opinion on something related to her field. But there was something off about it. On social media, he'd send her these photos with captions like, "A beautiful woman should be on a beach, not stuck in the kitchen." It was starting to get under my skin, but I kept my cool. Then came the moment when I finally lost it. It was Alice's birthday, and Oliver gave her a gift, a white gold necklace. At first, I didn't even know what to make of it. Where would she even wear something like that? And more importantly, what the hell was going on? I'd figured he'd bring something practical, like a blender or, at most, a spa voucher. But no, imagine how Alice looked that evening when she wore it. I couldn't take it anymore. I chose my moment and confronted Oliver. "What's with this circus, Oliver?" He just shrugged. "What's the big deal? It's your girlfriend's birthday, and she invited me. I got her a gift she deserves." Deserves. I snapped. What about me? Isn't my gift enough? Oliver didn't even flinch. "Don't translate," he muttered, turning away with a look that said he didn't care much, and walked off. I stood there, feeling like an idiot. And honestly, he had a point. I should have been the one giving her something special, but I hadn't. From that moment on, a dark cloud seemed to hover over everything between us. We didn't argue openly, but there was this strange tension whenever we saw each other. Oliver would greet me warmly, hug me, ask about work, my health, and all that, acting like we were close. But the camaraderie we once had was gone. Every time we met, he'd talk about his latest adventures, the car he was eyeing, his latest vacation, the fancy restaurant he had dined at. And all these things were possible because of his steady and well-paying job. It became clear that his wealth was always a part of the conversation. I could see the way Alice's eyes would light up when she looked at his photos. Here he was on a ski lift next to the ocean, or standing in the heart of a buzzing city in the USA. Oliver seemed to have a passport to every beautiful destination in the world. From the Eiffel Tower and Montmartre to the Vatican and Statue of Liberty, he had literally traveled the world. Meanwhile, I felt like I was doing everything I could, working my way up the corporate ladder, earning a decent salary. It was good, even above average, but it wasn't in the same league as Oliver's lifestyle. He'd definitely get the jackpot with his job. Of course, over time, Alice started dropping little comments. She'd say things like, "Oliver never has these kinds of problems. He's been living the good life for ages." And every time, it felt like a punch in the gut. My blood would boil when I remembered how much Oliver had pushed his way into our lives. Then came the work stress. I mean, could things get worse? Well, the inevitable happened. By the end of our second year of marriage, Alice finally exploded. "You're such a loser. I've been waiting for this trip for a year, and all you've done is make excuses. I think you're doing this on purpose to piss me off." Then she added, "Oliver was right about you. You don't even care about the little things, like enjoying the snow in winter." "What the hell does snow have to do with Oliver?" I snapped. She just looked at me with this strange, cold smile. "Oh, it's easy with him. It's fun. And he makes me feel good. Unlike you." That's when it hit me. This was it. "The end of what?" I asked, confused by the sudden shift. "The end of our marriage. I'm leaving." "Where are you going?" "I'm going to Oliver. He's a real man." Her words hit me like a slap. "What? He needs you." I shot back, totally stunned. I need him. I need him. We've been seeing each other for 2 months now. And trust me, he's everything I've ever wanted." And just like that, everything I thought I knew came crashing down. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I shot up from my chair. "How can you be dating him? This is none of your business anymore." Alice yelled at me before turning on her heel and storming out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, completely blindsided. I hadn't expected this, or maybe, deep down, I had. Maybe I was just terrified of it happening. For the next week, I couldn't move. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, completely numb. I thought about drowning my sorrows in alcohol, but every time I tried, it felt like I couldn't swallow a single drop. Eventually, I started picking up the phone again, even venturing out in public. The divorce came through, and Alice walked away, just like that. I kept wondering, when's Oliver going to show up? Was he going to try to fix things? Should I apologize, or just explain myself? Honestly, I didn't care about what he had to say anymore. I just wanted to look into his slimy eyes and see if he felt the guilt I did. But Oliver, he was nowhere to be found. Like a rat, he scurried off into the shadows. As time passed, I tried to return to normal, but every evening, without fail, I found myself checking Alice's social media. Every time there were new photos from some exotic place, always with the same caption, "A real man knows how to make his woman happy." It was like a knife to the chest each time I saw it. Then, one day, I saw something that shattered me. Oliver and Alice were expecting a baby. That was the moment I found the strength to finally unfollow her. It hurt like hell, but it was time. I started a new job, got a solid position, met new people, and my life started filling up with events. About 6 months later, I thought I'd check in on my ex again. This time, something had changed. The photos, the showy posts, had stopped. I asked around, and the truth came out. Oliver's boss had finally had enough of his constant travel and absences. They had tolerated him for so long out of respect for his father, but that was running out. Oliver couldn't get another job. No one was willing to pay him the kind of salary he thought he deserved. The world had suddenly turned against him. And how did he deal with it? Alcohol, which, as we all know, he was very good at. That's when the real story began to unravel. First of all, the car. It was on credit. Oliver had spent so much that he couldn't cover the payments, so he had to mortgage the apartment. And naturally they lost it. They couldn't afford much on Alice's salary, just enough to get by for the month, no luxuries. Plus, Alice's maternity leave was about to start, which meant their main income was about to dry up. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Oliver had hit rock bottom. In his drunken rages, he'd even raised his hand to her a few times. In the end, they had no choice but to move in with Oliver's mom. The three of them crammed into a 2-room apartment. Oliver's father. He couldn't stand to look at his son, especially after the way he'd embarrassed him in front of his business partners. I couldn't shake the feeling that some kind of cosmic justice had been done. To be honest, I hadn't felt this satisfied in months, but I didn't feel sorry for them. Karma has done its job. The only person I really felt for was the unborn child, because the poor baby was going to grow up in difficult circumstances.